Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all doing well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading. I like to read diverse books and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thank you so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I'm excited for today because it's been a while. The thought of doing this has been a while, and I'm going to be taking a look back at the books that I've read that I put on my TBR because of you. So I've done about 8 videos now where I talk about books that other booktubers, subscribers, and friends have talked about either on their channels. Sometimes in the comments, people will make recommendations to me. I love that. So when I think that they sound really good, I've added them to my TBR. Now, I don't put everybody's on these videos, but these are some that I've highlighted. And I have read 12 of those books so far. So I thought that I would share them with you and, just kind of let you know which ones that I would also recommend. I will leave links below to all of the videos that I've already done so far, so you can check them out and see who recommended them, and see some of the other books that are still on my radar and still on my TBR because of you. So I will eventually get to those and maybe do another video like this. So I'm going to share these books from my least enjoyed to most enjoyed. And I will tell you that 3 of the 12 books I did rate 5 stars. That's pretty good. So the first book is Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Leigh Allen. I saw this book on Monica's channel from Dog-Eared Musings. And I wanted to read it because she said it is a book to read if you like Love is Blind. Now, at the time, I had never seen Love is Blind, but I did know that it was a dating reality show. But as she talked, it sounded to me like the book One to Watch by Kate Staben London, because it also centers around a reality dating show. And I really enjoyed One to Watch. And Patricia Wants to Cuddle had this extra element of being a horror book, which I thought would be really interesting. And so Monica said it has B horror movie vibes, which might be true now that I think of it, if I think back on it. And then she said it's funny and wacky, and I thought I love all of those things. So I rated this book 2 stars, which was really disappointing because I really thought that I would like it way more than I did, and it had potential to be so much better, I think. So I read this as a buddy read with Danny from Danny Dabbles, and I'm so glad that I read it with her. This is about a reality dating show where the last of the contestants end up on a secluded island. There also happens to be a lesbian Sasquatch who's in the woods, kind of watching everything that is happening. And things get incredibly violent, hence the horror part. And in the end, absolutely nothing is resolved. And I was happy to be reading this with Danny, but the book itself just wasn't for me. I wasn't sure what I had even read at the end. So next up, I read The Gargoyle by Andrew Davidson. And this was a book that I already had on my shelves. It's a book that I had attempted to get my book club at the time. This was many years ago. I had attempted to get them to read, and it never happened. So when Wendy, one of my subscribers, recommended it, it was put back on my radar, and I ended up buddy reading this with another subscriber and Karen, and I ended up giving this book 3 stars. First of all, the cover of this book is pretty cool, and even more appropriate once you read the book and you kind of understand it more. This book had a lot of layers to it and a lot of symbolism. There are several storylines that are kind of intertwined. There is an unnamed young man who is in a burn unit at a hospital, obviously, and he's been in a bad car accident. He meets a nun named Marianne Engel, and she tells the young man stories that seem to come from another life or another time. And so that was kind of strange. But what I enjoyed most about this book was the writing. The writing was, I thought, excellent. But I did find the story a little difficult to follow at times. I don't know, I think it was the timing thing. But if Andrew Davidson ever writes anything else, I will definitely check it out. So the next book that I read was Because of One from Plagued by Visions. And he said, actually I have it here, he said that Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones was phenomenal, very wistful and tragic. And I've enjoyed other books by Stephen Graham Jones, and I thought, that this sounded mysterious. And I gave this book 3.25 stars. And this is a quick read, very small. It's really almost a short story. And there is a creepy feeling to this, and I would say it's a psychological horror, which I normally would love. This is about Junior, who thinks he sees his father one night, but his father had died in a mysterious drowning accident or event. And Junior and his family, because of this, have to leave the reservation after his father's death. And now they are living in poverty. And Junior's mother is very distant. And when Junior has these encounters with his father, he's really drawn to him, but then he's also scared of him at the same time. And the story had some really good things. My favorite part about it is that eerie feeling and setting that was created. And I think that Stephen Graham Jones does that well. So the next book that I put on my TBR because of Stella from It's Too Late to Apologize. She talked about it. And she said, Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden dramatically reshaped perspectives. I gave this 3.5 stars. Now, on paper, this should have been a 5-star read for me. This story is about Shin Dong-hyuk. I don't know how to say that correctly, but he was born inside a North Korean prison camp and escaped, not ever knowing the outside world and really what he was escaping to. And the book talks about Shin seeing his mother and brother die, and also about the ways that Shin was able to survive the camp. It talks about his escape, and then the difficulty of being part of this society that he, didn't understand after the escape and after being in the camps his whole life. My issue with the book was that there seemed to be a lot of missing parts that to me would be important for the story. And as a journalist writing this, writing a biography, I would think that they would include some of these gaps that are there and do the research. So after reading the book, I did a bit of my own research to find out that there had been a lot of controversy. A lot of the story has major holes in it. Even Shin's father says that he's lied about some things. There are some people who say, he didn't really escape. Some say that he may not have even been part of that specific camp. Okay, whatever. So, do I think that Shin has probably experienced horrible things in a camp and struggled afterwards? Yes, I do. But I wish that more care would have been taken in putting this story together. I think that the author could have definitely done better research, maybe interviewed other people and included that, because maybe he did, but it doesn't really seem like it. Others' perspectives might have added to this, because I think this had potential to be an amazing, amazing book. The next book is a book in translation that Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads had talked about, and it's To the Forest by Anais Barbeau Lavalette, and this is translated from the French by Rhonda Mullins, and this is another quick read, less than 200 pages. It takes place at the beginning of the pandemic, and it follows two families, basically, as they go into the forest during the pandemic. I gave this 3.5 stars. Lindy had said that the writing was beautiful, and she was absolutely right. I agree with her. I loved the writing and the use of language. The story is written in these short vignettes that give glimpses into the narrator's life, family, and thoughts. The descriptions were amazing, like descriptions about nature, about various family members. The descriptions were excellent, and it gave me a real sense of place, and knowing some of the characters, I really felt like I knew them. So this started off so good. About halfway into it, though, it lost me. And so the story kind of goes all over the place, and sometimes in the last half, I wasn't sure where I was all the time or what timeline I was in. But up until that point, I thought it was great. So this next book was on my radar because the author was highlighted as a Canadian author to watch out for by CBC. And then I saw Brett talk about this on his channel, Brett's Book Stack. And I gave The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard 3.75 stars. The book was longlisted for Canada Reads, and I thought for sure, I was really sure, that it would be shortlisted, so I read it. And the premise of the book is awesome. It's set in a valley where on one side of the valley, the same valley exists, but 20 years ahead of time. And then on the other side of the valley, the same valley exists, but this time 20 years behind in time. Like, fabulous, right? I love that idea. And there are really strict rules around the borders between the valleys because, people either want to see the future, and then of course there's people who want to go to the past, for the most part, to see their loved ones who have died. And I was hoping to really be immersed into this world, into these valleys, but I didn't really connect with any of the characters, at least not in the way that I was hoping. And, even though I appreciated the concept and the ideas around grief and loss, it just didn't come together for me. So, Allie from All I Do Is Read talked about this next book, and she compared it to the characters in Sex and the City. So I thought that I would love it. I gave Wahala by Nikki May 3.75 stars. My expectation of this was that it would be a Nigerian Sex and the City kind of set in London. And it's true that there are 4 women as the main characters. To me, that's all it really had in common with Sex and the City. The story does include Nigerian culture, which I liked, and it was about belonging in 2 different worlds or 2 different cultures, and how one is perceived in each of those worlds. That was very well done. So this book also had a mystery, but I didn't find it too compelling or suspenseful in any way. Yeah, it really didn't matter. The writing in this was good. And for a debut, I thought it was a really, really good start. So I will read more by this author. Okay, this next book was also originally brought to my attention from Brett. And then since then, this book was everywhere. I gave Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt 4 stars. This book has Marcellus, who is an octopus who lives in the Washington Aquarium. But the story is really more so about Marcellus's observations of the people around him. And I loved the voice of Marcellus and wish that there had been more of that. So the main character is really Tova, who is a cleaner at the aquarium. And Tova's husband has died. Her son has been missing after a boating accident. And the bond that Marcellus and Tova have is very sweet. And the story is heartwarming. So this is a good one. Okay, this next book was another book that Lindy had talked about. And I gave Fire Weather by John Vaillant 4.75 stars. Now, why I didn't give it 5, I can't remember anymore. Why I wasn't quite willing to do that. But I thought that this was very well researched. This book is about the 2016 wildfire that took over the city of Fort McMurray, which is here in northern Alberta. And to evacuate all those people, like, this story is in many ways a miracle. And it was incredible to watch it live when it was happening. It felt like watching a dystopian show, but it was real. But I learned a lot from this book. It gave a lot of background information on, the place, just on fire in general, things that I had never thought about, and then how the story was told through various people's stories. I thought was very well done. So I really, really enjoyed this book. So this leaves 3 more books. So these were all 5-star reads for me. But I have still put them kind of in an order with my favorite 5-star reads left to the end. So the first 5-star read for me was 7 Days in June by Tia Willams. And Leo Bancroft talked about this on his channel, and he hasn't been on BookTube for a while now. It'd be lovely if he came back. But I'm so glad that he brought this book to my attention because I really, really enjoyed it. This is about 2 writers who basically get a second chance at romance. And one author writes vampire erotica, and the other writes literary fiction. And the 2 writers see each other after many years at a literary event. And as we kind of get their backstory, they spend 7 days, hence the title, they spend 7 days together reconnecting and seeing if they have a second chance to be together. And I just thought this was a great story. It had a feel-good vibe, but it also dealt with some pretty serious stuff, but without it taking over, without it feeling like it was taking over the story of the relationship. So I really liked that about it. So really good book. This next book was first put on my radar because of Sandy at Miss Reads a Lot, and she spoke very highly of it, and it was one of my favorite books of last year, and it's The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mikki Brammer. So Clover is a death doula, and as she cares for people who are dying, she likes to learn from them. And she likes to learn what regrets they have at the end of their lives. And she will sometimes even honor them after their death by doing, the thing that they never had a chance to do. The characters in this story were just lovely. Clover had a really interesting backstory and some early experiences with death. And this is just one of those books that I still think about and I still recommend to people all the time. It's a really heartwarming read that will tug at your heartstrings as well. It's a great book. And then the final book that I've read because of you was recommended by a subscriber and commenter, S. Vance. They recommended Call Me Indian. What is it here? From the Trauma of Residential School to Becoming the NHL's First Treaty Indigenous Player. And this is by Fred Saskamoose. So this is among the top Indigenous memoirs that I've ever read. I do read quite a bit of Indigenous stories, and it would certainly be in my top 10, if not my top 5. I really liked how this book was written. It's a heartbreaking story, and yet it's told in such a beautiful way. Fred begins his stories with his ancestors before first contact. And he shares stories of his family and his own experience of residential schools. For him, hockey, obviously, became something really good, and it was something that he loved and he was good at himself. It gave him a place to belong, even though he experienced a lot of racism. He talks about finding solace with other non-white players and how he brought hope to other Indigenous people, especially when he played in the NHL. So Fred tells his trauma in a really honest way, and he's open about how it made an impact on him and how he related to his own family members, especially as a husband and father. So this is just an excellent read. If you get a chance, I strongly recommend it. So thank you to everyone who recommended these books. There are some really, really good books here. I still have many more to get to from those videos, but as you all know, I am always adding books to my TBR, and oftentimes it's because of all of you. It's because of the videos I watch. It's because of the recommendations that you make, and I love that, and I look forward to reading many more. So please let me know if you have read any of these, if you are interested in reading any of them, if any of them have piqued your curiosity, or if you have read a book based on a recommendation from someone that you are now recommending to other people. I always think that that's fantastic. So I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.